Freezing water, a wooden hull creaking under you, 40 men, oars in hand, and you're 17 years old, gripping an axe you're not sure you'll survive using. You didn't choose this life. You were born into it. Rewind. You're a newborn, placed on the dirt floor of a smoky longhouse. Your father looks down at you. Here's the part that should terrify you. He doesn't have to keep you. If he turns and walks away, that's it. You're not accepted into the family. No name, no future. He picks you up. You just survived your first Viking custom before you could even open your eyes. And it only gets harder from here, because by age 7, you're not a kid anymore. You're a worker. Boys learn the axe. Girls learn to run a farm, manage servants, and, when needed, pick up a blade too. Nobody in this world gets a childhood the way you'd picture one. And soon, you'll find out why every single one of you is being trained for violence, even the ones who'll never leave the farm. Night falls. Your family gathers around the fire. A skald, a storyteller, starts speaking, and the whole room goes silent. He's telling you how the world ends. Ragnarok. Gods and monsters tearing each other apart, the sun swallowed by a wolf, the world drowning in fire and sea. This isn't a bedtime story. Your entire culture believes this is coming. And here's a twist that explains everything about how Vikings live. Dying isn't the scary part. Dying badly is. Die in your bed of old sickness? Fine, forgettable. Die in battle, weapon in hand? You're going to Valhalla, Odin's hall, where you feast and fight until Ragnarok arrives and you get to stand with the gods when the world ends. You're not just being raised to survive, you're being raised to want a violent death. That single belief is about to send you across an ocean. You're older now, a crew is forming, and you've been asked to join. The ship you board is a longship, 70 feet of flexible oak, shallow enough to row up a river, strong enough to cross open ocean. Nothing else in the world moves like this in 870 AD. Here's what nobody tells you before your first voyage. The sea will try to kill you before any enemy does. A storm hits on day 3. Freezing spray, the hull groaning, men bailing water with helmets because there's nothing else. No one on this boat can swim. Now, that's not unusual. It's just not a skill anyone bothers learning. If you go in, you're gone. You survive the storm. Land appears on the horizon. What you're about to do on that shore is the reason your entire people will be feared across Europe for the next 300 years. The year is 793. The place is Lindisfarne, a monastery on the English coast, undefended, wealthy, and about to become famous for the worst possible reason. You and your crew hit the beach at dawn. There's no army here, no walls, just monks, gold, silver, and silence. What happens next becomes one of the most infamous events in medieval history. A horrified witness later writes that the raiders arrived like a raven, the messenger of blood. Monks are killed or taken. Treasure is loaded onto your ship. Within hours, you're gone. Word spreads across Christian Europe faster than you can sail. The Northmen have arrived, and no coastline is safe. But here's what most people never learn about this moment. Raiding like this is actually the smaller part of your life. It's the part that gets remembered, but it's not the part that keeps your family alive. Trading is bigger than raiding. Much bigger. You end up part of a trade network stretching further than most people alive today would guess. From North America across to Baghdad. Furs, walrus ivory, amber, and silver flow through Viking hands. Cities like Dublin and York grow because Norse settlers build them up. Kiev exists partly because of Swedish traders called the Rus. Yes, that's where the name Russia likely comes from. And it goes further. A man named Eric the Red, exiled from Iceland for manslaughter, an oddly common Viking legal problem, sails west and finds an enormous icy landmass. He names it Greenland, not because it's green, because he wants people dumb enough to follow him there. His son, Leif Erikson, keeps going. He lands in North America. The year is roughly 1000 AD, 500 years before Columbus is even born. You could be one of these settlers. Family, livestock, and seeds loaded onto a ship, sailing into open ocean with no map, just stars, sagas, and stubbornness. Eventually, your story reaches its final scene, and how you die decides what happens to your body. Die in battle, you might get a ship burial, laid in a longship with weapons and treasure, then burned or buried beneath an earthen mound. Archaeologists have pulled ships like this out of the ground in Norway, still packed with carved wood and grave goods 1,000 years later. Die peacefully. A simpler grave, sometimes marked with stones arranged in the shape of a ship. A symbol for one last journey, even without a real boat underneath you. Either way, Your name might survive in a saga, spoken around a fire for generations after you're gone. Or it might vanish completely, dust in a mound until someone digs it up 1,000 years later and tries to guess who you were from a comb and a brooch. Here's the last thing worth knowing: your world doesn't last. By the mid 1000s, Scandinavian kingdoms convert to Christianity, centralize, and the Viking Age quietly ends. But you don't disappear. Words you spoke are still inside English right now: sky, knife, berserk, law, even they and them. Cities you helped build are still standing, and the image of who you were, fearless, chaotic, free, willing to sail into nothing rather than live small, becomes one of the most retold stories in human history. You didn't just survive the cold, the sea, and the sword, you became a legend that outlived your own name.